know, because not only has she been a parent here at Landmark, but she now works here at Landmark. And when she came to us with her story, at first we didn't quite believe it. And the reason was that she was kind of singing when she came in, something like, you know, when I wish upon a star. Now, if you're going to wish upon a star, this is the star you should wish upon. Her name is Rebecca Chills. Let's hear it.
So if you spend more than approximately 4.7 seconds with me, you will come away knowing two things. You will probably come away knowing that I'm not from around here. And you will also probably leave knowing that I am a self-proclaimed Disney file. I often get asked the question, why Disney? What's the draw to Disney? Why are you so obsessed with Disney? Do we need to stage an intervention? The answer is always no, but I get asked the question and I usually sort of pass it off conversation and say, oh, well, I grew up with it. Which isn't untrue, but it's not exactly the entire truth. When I was 5 years old, my parents separated, and what would eventually become a very nasty and public divorce. I sought a refuge away from what was at the time my reality, and Disney provided that refuge. I would immerse myself in the books and in the stories and in the fairy tales, and I would write my own stories, and I would write my own fairy tales, and I would dress up, and I would look everywhere for my Prince Charming, and I determined within myself that eventually I would have my very own happily ever after. So fast forward a few years, and I find myself married with 2 children of my own. I have a son who is 18, his name is Andrew, and I have a daughter who just turned 13, and her name is Bailey. And when my children were born, let's be very honest here and tell you that they were born into what I call a Disney dictatorship. It was not a democracy. We did not have a vote every 4 years to ask what movies we were going to watch and where we were going to go on vacation. If we were watching movies or on vacation, it had something to do with Disney. Now my son Andrew sort of passively embraced that. He became a superhero, and even today he speaks very fondly of his memories. And when he was 16, I said, I will take you anywhere in the world you want to go for your birthday. Where would you like to go? And he said, Disney. And to this day, he holds very fond memories. However, my daughter embraced it with both arms, both legs, and a big old woo-hoo, because she was the Disney princess. When she was very young, I remember 2 weeks where she took a bath every 3 hours because she was absolutely convinced if she stayed in the water long enough, she really would turn into a mermaid. Then Bailey got a little older and decided that she was very much in control of her destiny, so she would only answer to the name of Aurora for about a month. Now, she might answer to the name of Sleeping Beauty, but she was very unhappy with that because really you should know her name and that's all there is to it. So then there was my favorite story. When she was probably about 4 and a half, I was tidying up the living room, and I heard a very odd noise coming from the bathroom. And so any of you who has had a toddler knows that if you hear an odd noise coming from the bathroom, you should go check it out, or else you will find yourself without a wallet or keys or shoes or something the next day. So I wandered into the bathroom very quietly, and there Bailey stood, floor to ceiling in her Snow White dress, white gloves up to her elbows, and all you saw was tulle, because she was bent at the waist, and her head was so far in the toilet bowl that you couldn't see it, and all I could hear was her singing, I'm wishing, I'm wishing. Because at that moment my daughter was Snow White, and that was her wishing well. I kept it very private. Unfortunately, when Bailey was 6 years old, our fairy tale crumbled, and I found myself separated ultimately divorced as well. And I remember standing in my living room, terrified that the same self-confidence problems that had plagued me and the same self-esteem issues that had plagued me would once again follow my daughter in this horrible cycle that I couldn't figure out how to break. So once again, we turned to what we knew. And we turned to Disney. And we started watching the movies with a different perspective. And we started reading the books. And when the time came, we took our very first 3 family-member trip, and we went to Disney. And it was an amazing trip. We laughed, we cried, we stomped in puddles. We started to heal. We came back from the trip, and Bailey was about 6 years old. And Bailey had determined at some point in this trip that she must, most definitely, without question, now own a crown. She needed to own a crown. Of course, who was I to argue? Of course she needed to own a crown. But hoping that I was a good parent, I tried to teach her and say, yes, you must definitely own a crown, but I think you should probably save the money yourself and earn it. So she was very excited about this. So for the next 45 minutes, she spent in her room decorating an envelope. And she very carefully labeled it CRNFND. Now for those of you who don't speak 6-year-old language, that spells Crown Fund. She glittered it, she stickered it. It looked like the princess had vomited in her bedroom by the time she was done. And so for the next 6 weeks, she saved every penny she found on the carpet. Every quarter she weaseled out of her brother. Every dollar she charmed her grandparents out of. And she stuffed it all in this envelope, which by the end of the 6 weeks had become quite ragged. But she was very proud of it. And so at the end of the 6 weeks, when she had saved up enough money, off we went to the costume jewelry store. And after a very short 90-minute shopping session, she picked out a crown, and up we go to the counter. And she puts the crown up on the counter, and then she very proudly presents the Crown Fund. And you can see the look on the cashier, and she's like, oh, I'm certain that it's all there. I'll just take it and count it later. And Bailey was like, absolutely not, I'll count it for you. And I, standing behind Bailey, looked at the cashier and I gave her that look. And I know that anyone who has children know what look that is. It's that look that you say, I swear to God, if you ruin this moment for her, I will kill you. So she composed herself and she said, of course you can count it. And so Bailey starts sliding the money in no particular order forward on the counter. 25, 26, 27. What's 27 plus 25? It's 52, Bailey. Okay, thank you. 52. And on she went until she had reached the purchase price of this crown. And so we had paid for the crown. We took the crown, we got into the car, where it promptly, of course, came out of the box and onto her head. And she was content, sitting in the front seat of my car, wearing a crown. And as a mom, I knew that this was a particular moment that I really should absorb and pay attention to because I would look back on it. But as a single mom, I also knew that it was Tuesday, and on Tuesday we grocery shopped. And being from the South, we grocery shopped at Walmart. Because in the South, we have super Walmarts, and they have everything. So off we go, my daughter wearing her crown in the car to the Walmart parking lot. And we pull into the parking lot, and we park, and I hand my daughter a box that the crown had come in, and I said, we're at Walmart, why don't you put the crown in the box? And she looked at me very puzzled, and she said, what? I said, we're at Walmart, I would like you to put the crown in the box so that nothing happens to it while we're inside. And she looked at me and she did, huh? So in this very, you know this voice, I know you know this voice, in this very patient voice, like you're trying to explain the most simplest thing in the world to somebody, I said, Bailey, darling, we're going into Walmart to grocery shop. Why don't you put the crown in the box? You're not going to wear it into Walmart, are you? And it was in my daughter's response that not only did I learn one of the most important lessons I'd ever learned, but I also learned that my daughter was going to be just fine. Because she looked at me, and with that same voice, like you're trying to explain the most simplest thing in the world to a child, she said, "Mom, I can be a princess anywhere."